that from where you start to where you want to be is you have to be more strategic about it. I've worked that out over the years, and it got to the point where the decisions that we were making and that I was making with my agent and my family as to jobs that I was doing and how I was being seen was a little bit scattergun initially. And if we wanted to be we wanted to work out where I want to be, if we wanted to create, and I think you mentioned this, if you want to create a vision as to where you want to end up, that will help you guide your path to get there. I did some interesting brand planning with my sister and her husband. They have a company that did a similar thing to what you're doing here, Chester, and it was fascinating because one of the great ideas that they had that they presented me with was my niece, who was a little baby at the time, sitting on a bench, and there was a plaque at the top of a bench. I mean, how many people sit on the bench overlooking a beautiful view, and there's a little plaque saying this bench is in memory of Chester Robinson. He was a passionate, excitable, charismatic person, and he will be sorely missed, or something like that. And the idea was, what do I want that plaque to say when eventually I have finished my career, when I've retired? What do I want people to remember me as? And if you can work out what you want that plaque to say, then you can start plotting a course to get there. And through sort of exploration with them and going out to consumers and sort of doing lots of focus groups about me and what I do, I was able to work out all these things you've talked about. What are my values? What do I stand for? What is my strategic difference between other competitors? Who are my competitors? Now, of course, the competitors for me change because I can move into a different environment. At 2010, I went from doing the breakfast to going into Sky Sports. And so that environment changed dramatically for me. Understanding I could make that move was really important, though, and that viewers would accept me in that environment. Because often you will see someone getting a job doing something on television and the viewers instinctively don't like it. They don't feel comfortable with that person. They don't feel like they fit. But when you know that there is already a reception to that, and I knew that actually people perceived me as somebody who loved their sport, was knowledgeable about sport, I could make that transition comfortably, and then enjoyed sort of 9 years working for Sky Sports before I then came back to breakfast TV as well. So I think it's been understanding that I am a brand in my own right. Obviously, I'm still me, but understanding that there is a brand that I have to be true to and authentic with as well, I think is absolutely key. Because if much as I would love to do Love Island, Chester, as you and I have discussed at length for probably far too long, I don't think that would necessarily sit particularly well with my brand. I wouldn't necessarily work for my consumers, and that would jar, and that could end up doing some damage. And protecting the brand and protecting sort of what it is that I do professionally is something that I take very seriously, and we plan very carefully.
That's fascinating, because it sounds like you started out on this journey that you were meandering around, and then as the agent then actually took you through a structured process for a guy that likes pictures, that must have been quite a painful process, I should imagine. But
yeah, I undoubtedly that all that, me, I'm certainly not about detail. I'm about sort of seeing sort of what it is that if you can explain to me why I need to get somewhere, then I can get it and I can grab it. I undoubtedly have ADHD and I have various other issues that have allowed me to do what I do and have given me various opportunities, but sort of understanding and focusing on detail has never been a good one for me. So going through a process like that was hugely important, and allowing me to get to where I am today. And it's something that you're constantly working on as well. It's not something that you just settle on and then it stays there. You're constantly adjusting it, looking at it and making sure you're staying true to that sort of path. And that authenticity is hugely important as well.
I'm hoping that people are kind of taking notes, because that's that concept of how do I reflect what I'm hearing back on myself as an individual, and how am I going to turn up in front of my teams, in front of my organizations. Ben, final question before I pivot to Ivan, and I'm going to ask Amanda just to spotlight Ivan as well. It's just, where's Brand Shephard going? You talked about it evolves. Is that still a conscious process, or is that something that you're kind of still mulling over?
Yeah, it's a very conscious process. We've been working on a new project, which we are launching over the next few months, which is a sort of really big project, just in terms of exploring more what it is that one of the things that came out particularly from the brand planning that I did is that I really enjoy meeting people and trying to bring out the best in people. That's one of my key drivers, I think, through what we've all been through over the last couple of years, and through the pandemic, and this sort of since Brexit and the division, that huge division that we have in opinion. I think what I've discovered is there was a lot of really amazing news out there that doesn't get shared. There's a lot of incredible people doing incredible things that never shout about it because they're not interested in glory. They're doing it just because they want to. And I'm sort of looking at trying to work on shining a light on that. So we've got this big project that we're launching called Humble Heroes, which we're going to work on exploring that in many different dimensions, on screen, in literature, social media, just to sort of try and keep exploring sort of the opportunity that I see to help other people shine as well, which is where I certainly get a great deal of my value personally from being able to share other people's stories. There's a thing that someone once asked me why I ended up becoming a TV presenter, and that was because I love meeting people, I love finding out about things, and I love being able to share those things with other people, to infuse other people with the interesting bits and pieces that I found, whether that's sport, news, entertainment, human interest, business, whatever that might be. So I've been very lucky to do that, and it's an ongoing process, Jess, and it's not an exact science, much as it would be lovely if it was. And along the way, you can trip up and make a few mistakes, but as long as you're sort of conscious of where you're going, and you're conscious of, if you take a little risk here and there of what that might mean, then hopefully it won't be sort of terminal.
Thanks very much, Ben. I'm conscious that shine was something you talked about. I'm going to pivot to Ivan and talking about how he's made other people shine through the work that he's been doing.